By the time you knew you were angry, 3 people in that room had already known for about 4 seconds. You remember the meeting. You do not remember the 4 seconds, because you were not present for them, and that is the whole problem. Something was said, and you did not react, not visibly, not yet. But your face had already begun answering, your posture had already begun answering, and 2 desks away, somebody who reads people for a living watched the answer arrive and adjusted what he was about to say next, while you were still deciding whether you were bothered. That is what this is about, not your temper. The 4 seconds before your temper, which you have never once seen, and which everyone who matters has seen many times. Last week you took the clock back. You learned that answering fast is read as need, and that the man who owns the timing owns everything downstream of it. Good, except that video assumed something it never checked, which is that you can feel the reaction coming. You cannot, not yet, and the men who can read you are not waiting for the outburst. They stopped watching for outbursts years ago. So let me be precise about what this video is, because it is not a video about controlling your temper. Temper control is a mood. This is about legibility, which is a position. It is about the fact that you have been broadcasting on a channel you cannot hear for as long as you have been working, and a small number of people around you have learned to tune in. There are 6 of these signals. I am going to count them down, from the most public, the ones half the room can see, to the last one, which is invisible and which everybody feels anyway. They go in that order for a reason. The first 3 you can fix in a week, the last one takes a year, and a man who tries to fix the last one first simply adds a new tell on top of the old one. And I will tell you the cost up front, because this one has a real cost, and most men do not pay it. Learning your own tells means watching a version of yourself you have spent decades not looking at. There is a specific kind of embarrassment waiting for you around the 3rd signal, and a lot of men close the video there rather than sit in it. Hold on through that part, because the thing on the other side of it is the only reason any of this works. There is also a telegram I am going to show you before this is over. On the 13th of July 1870, one man shortened another man's message before releasing it, and 6 days later 2 countries were at war. He did not add a single false word, he only cut. And that telegram explains why your tells matter far more than you think they do, because somebody is doing that to you on a small scale, most weeks. Machiavelli wrote a chapter about flatterers that almost nobody reads, because it sits between the famous ones. His argument was not that flatterers are wicked. It was that a ruler who cannot be told the truth safely will simply stop being told anything at all, and the men around him will move from informing him to managing him, and he will never notice the moment it changed. That is the effect a legible man produces without meaning to. Once the room knows how to set you off, the room stops telling you things and starts handling you. And nobody announces it. Before we start, 4 words in the comments. I know my tell. Type it now, because you almost certainly do not know it yet. And by the end of this you will. And I want to see the before and the after in the same thread. Here is the rule underneath all of it. Every room contains a small number of people who read behavior for a living, and they are not the people you think. They are not the loudest, and they are usually not the most senior. They are the ones whose job requires them to predict what a man will do before he does it. The account manager, who has to know whether the client is about to walk. The operations lead, who has to know whether the promise she just heard is real. The man who negotiated for a decade before he moved into management. They develop the skill because they needed it, not because they enjoy it, and they use it on you constantly, and without any particular malice, the way you read the weather. And what they are reading is not your words. Your words are the least useful thing about you, because your words are the part you edit. They are reading the gap between what you said and how you arrived at saying it. And that gap is where you live, and you have never seen it. Watch what this costs a man over years. There is somebody at your work who never seems to get pushed. Requests arrive at his desk, framed carefully. People check with him before they commit him to things. Difficult conversations with him start with a preamble. He has not demanded any of that, and if you asked him, he would probably say he had not noticed it. What happened is that the readers in the room worked out early that he does not give a return. There is no flair to provoke and no wobble to exploit, so provoking him has no payoff, and behavior with no payoff stops happening. He is not respected because he is powerful. He is left alone because he is boring to push. Now look at your own position honestly. Requests arrive at your desk already shaped for you. People know which framing gets a yes out of you and which one gets an argument, and they select accordingly. And they have been doing it for so long that it does not feel like manipulation to anyone involved. It just feels like knowing how you are. That is what legibility buys you, not hostility. Management every day, quietly, by people who are fond of you. And here is the turn that most men never make, the one that explains why every attempt you have made at this has failed. You have tried to fix this before. You have decided to stay calm, to not let things get to you, to keep your face still in meetings. And it worked for about a week, and then it stopped. And you concluded that you lack discipline. You do not lack discipline. You are working on the wrong end of the sequence. Calm is not the thing that goes first. The signal goes first, then the feeling arrives, then the visible reaction. You have been trying to control the third step by clamping down on it, which is why your version of composure looks like a man holding a door shut, and a held door is louder than an open one. Everybody in the room can see a man not reacting. The 6 signals are the first step. They are upstream of the feeling. And a signal you can name is a signal you can spend 4 seconds ahead of, which is exactly the 4 seconds you have been giving away. So we go down 6 signals, from the ones half the room can see to the one nobody can see and everybody feels. The men in the pack who get to the 6th rung will understand why the first 5 were the easy part. I call the whole thing the tell ladder, because that is what it is. The top rungs are public and cheap to fix. The bottom rungs are private and expensive. And the reason we descend, rather than jump, is that every rung you clear makes the next one visible. And the man who tries to start at the bottom simply cannot see it yet. Signal 1, the most visible, the one 3 people can see. Before you answer, you begin using their vocabulary. Somebody challenges the timeline and you say, "So on the timeline." Somebody questions the approach and your reply opens with, "In terms of the approach." You have repeated their frame back to them before you have said anything of your own. And you did it because repeating buys you half a second to think, and half a second is what you needed. That half second is the tell, not the words, the purchase. Because when you are not rattled, you do not need to buy time, and you do not open by restating the other person's terms. You just answer. Watch yourself in an easy conversation, and you will find that you almost never repeat the other person's phrasing back. Watch yourself under pressure, and you will find that you do it almost every time, and that the harder the hit, the more of their words come back out of your mouth. The readers know this one. It is the first thing they look for, because it is the cheapest to spot, and it is almost never faked. A man who begins his sentence inside your sentence has been moved, and everything he says after that is being said from inside your frame. The fix is small, and it will feel enormous. When somebody puts something to you, and you feel the pull to restate it, you do not. You let the sentence end, you let one full beat pass, and then you begin with your own word. Not a rebuttal, not a defense, any word that is yours. The beat feels like an eternity to you, and it is invisible to everybody else, and it removes the tell entirely. That is one, and says one out loud. I let them finish one word before we go down a rung. Do you do the first one? Yes or no, that is the whole comment. Be honest, because almost nobody answers no truthfully, and I want to see how many of you have already caught yourself. Signal 2. Under pressure, the length of your reply roughly doubles, and you do not notice because from the inside it feels like being thorough. Count it sometime. In an ordinary exchange, your answers run 1 or 2 sentences. The moment something lands on you, they run 5. You add the context, then the qualification, then the second example, then a summary of the whole thing, in case the first 4 parts were unclear. And you finish feeling that you covered it properly, which is the wrong word, because covered is exactly what it looks like from outside. Here is the mechanism. Length is not a measure of how much you had to say. It is a measure of how much you needed the other person to agree with you before the exchange ended. Nobody writes 6 paragraphs about a thing they are relaxed about. The reader across from you does not have to interpret anything. He simply notices that the reply got long, and long means it landed, and now he knows exactly where. And there is a version of this you do in writing that is worse, because it leaves a record. The message you rewrite 4 times, and each rewrite adds rather than cuts, and by the 4th pass it is 3 times the length of the thing you are answering. You send it, believing it is airtight. What arrives at the other end is a man defending himself in a room where nobody had yet accused him. The fix is a rule, and it is crude and it works. When something lands hard, your reply is 1 sentence shorter than you want it to be. Not shorter than it should be, shorter than you want. The wanting is the tell, so you cut against the wanting, and you will be right, roughly 9 times in 10. That is 2. I answer short. Signal 3. And this is where the embarrassment I promised you lives, so stay with it. When you feel the ground move, you reach for evidence. You start citing history, actually. I sent that in March. If you check the thread from the 14th, I raised this at the time, and it is in the notes. And every one of those sentences is factually true. And every one of them is a confession. Because here is what reaching for the file actually announces. It announces that you do not believe your standing in this room is sufficient on its own, and that you require documentation to hold your position. A man who is secure in his standing says, "That was handled," and moves on. A man who is not secure produces the receipt, and the room, which is not reading the receipt, reads the reaching. This one is the hardest to hear because it feels so obviously reasonable. You have proof. Why would you not use proof? And the answer is that proof settles a dispute about facts, which is almost never the dispute you are actually in. The dispute you are actually in is about whether you can be moved, and producing a document in the middle of it is the loudest possible yes. There is a narrow exception, and it matters, because I am not telling you to let false things stand. If a fact is wrong and it is about to be acted on, you correct it once flatly, with the file attached, and no heat on it. That is administration, and it reads as administration. The tell is not the correction. The tell is the correction that arrives with feeling in it, and the difference is audible to everybody in the room, including you if you listen for it afterwards. That is 3. I do not reach for the file. Give me a number before we keep going. The longest message you have ever sent defending yourself. Roughly how many words? 200. 500 more, just the number. No story attached. I want to see the range, because I suspect the honest answers are much larger than anybody expects. Now stop for 20 seconds and do this properly, because the second half does not work unless you do. Think of the last time you flared, not a screaming argument, the small one, the reply that came out sharper than you meant, or the meeting where your voice changed and you heard it change. Fix the moment. Who was in the room? And then the harder question, the one that stings. What were you actually defending? Not the topic, the thing underneath the topic. Most men find that it was not the work at all. It was the suggestion that they had not been paying attention, or that somebody else had noticed something first. Whatever yours is, that is your door, and everybody who reads you knows where it is. And settle something for me while you are down there, because men divide hard on this. Is the man who never visibly reacts genuinely strong, or is he simply far enough away that nothing reaches him? Half of you think composure is strength. The other half think it is distance wearing a suit. Pick one, strong or far. Now the telegram, because it is time. In the summer of 1870, France and Prussia were arguing about who would sit on the vacant Spanish throne. It sounds like nothing now. At the time it was a question about which of the two countries was rising and which was being managed, and both of them knew it. On the 13th of July, the King of Prussia was taking the waters at a spa town called Bad Ems, and the French ambassador approached him there to press for a further guarantee. The king declined, politely, in the way that kings decline things, and considered the matter finished. He then sent an account of the conversation by telegram to his chief minister in Berlin, a man named Bismarck. Bismarck was at dinner when it arrived, with the chief of the general staff and the minister of war. He read it, and by every account the mood at that table was flat, because the king had handled it so smoothly that there was nothing in the message anybody could use. So Bismarck shortened it. He did not add a word, he did not invent a sentence, he did not fabricate a quotation, and he did not lie. He cut. He removed the courtesies, the qualifications, the softening clauses that turn a refusal into a polite refusal. And what came out the other side was a much shorter telegram in which a king appeared to have curtly dismissed an ambassador, and an ambassador appeared to have curtly pressed a king. Then he released it to the newspapers. The two men at the table understood immediately what he had done. He said afterwards that the shortened version would work on French opinion the way a red cloth works on a bull, and he was right. It ran in the papers on both sides of the border. Crowds formed in Paris. 6 days later, France declared war on Prussia and lost it, and the German Empire was proclaimed in the palace of the country that had declared. You can find this in about a minute under the name The Ems Dispatch, and I would far rather you check me than believe me. Now hold the mechanism, because it is the whole video. Nothing false was said. The facts were unaltered. All that changed was what got left in. And the receiving side read the compressed version, felt something, and acted on the feeling within a week. They did not think they were being handled. They thought they were being insulted. And the difference between those two experiences, from the inside, is nothing at all. So 3 rungs down, 3 to go, and they get quieter as we descend. Signal 4. When you are hit, your address widens. You stop talking to the person and start talking to the room. It is small. Your eyes move around the table between clauses. You say things like, "I think we all know," or "Look, everyone here has seen." You are no longer answering the man who spoke. You are assembling a jury, and you are doing it because some part of you has concluded that you cannot win this one alone and needs the others to weigh in on your side. They will not. That is the part worth knowing. A room asked to take sides mostly declines, because taking a side has a cost and staying neutral does not. And the man who visibly needed support and did not get it is worse off than the man who never asked. You have not gained an ally. You have demonstrated, in front of everyone, that you did not think you had enough on your own. The reader across from you sees the widening before you have finished the sentence. It is one of the most reliable tells there is, because almost nobody can do it deliberately, and almost everybody does it under load. The fix is a discipline of address. When something lands, you speak to one person, the person who said it. You do not scan, you do not appeal, you do not generalize to the room. One person, one answer, and you let it sit there between the two of you where it belongs. It feels exposed. That is because it is, and the exposure is the point, and it reads as a man who does not need the room to agree with him. That is 4. I talk to the one person, signal 5, and this one is close to the bottom, and it is the one that gives away the most. You defend the thing they did not attack. Somebody says the report came in late, and you explain that the analysis in it was sound. Somebody questions the cost, and you explain that you worked all weekend on it. In both cases, you have answered a charge nobody made, and in doing so you have told the entire room precisely which accusation you are afraid of, which is a thing they did not know until you said it. This is the most expensive tell on the ladder, because it is self-inflicted and it hands over information nobody had. The other 5 signals reveal that you were moved. This one reveals what you are protecting. It is the difference between showing that you have a door and telling everybody where the door is. Watch for it in the shape of your own sentences. Anytime your reply contains the word actually, or the phrase to be fair, or a defense of a quality nobody questioned, you have done it. Audit a week of your own conversations, and you will find you do it several times a day. You will also find it is almost always the same quality being defended, over and over, because a man has usually only got 1 or 2. The fix is a question you ask yourself before you speak, and it takes 1 beat. What was the actual charge? Answer that and only that, and stop. If nobody accused you of not caring, do not tell them how much you care. That is 5, signal 6, the bottom rung, the one nobody can see and everybody in the room can feel. You go quiet, and the quiet has heat in it. This is the one that catches the men who have done the work, which is why it is last. You learn not to restate their words, you shorten your replies. You stop reaching for the file. You stop addressing the room. You stop defending things nobody attacked. And you sit there, holding all of it in, and you believe you have become unreadable. You have not. You have become extremely readable in a new way, because withheld reaction has a temperature, and everyone at that table can feel it the way you can feel a radiator in a room you have not looked at. The set of the jaw, the one beat too long before an unrelated answer, the way you do not look at the person for the rest of the meeting. Hot silence is not composure. It is an outburst you are paying interest on, and the room is watching the meter run. And here is why it matters more than the other 5 put together. Last week's episode taught you that silence is a position. It is, but only cold silence is. Cold silence is a man who has genuinely finished with the matter. Hot silence is a man who has not finished with it, and is refusing to say so. And the difference is not subtle to anybody except the man producing it. So, how do you actually cool it, given that you cannot decide to stop feeling something? You do not. You close the thing instead. You either say the one flat sentence that ends it, once, without heat, or you decide, deliberately and consciously, that this one is not worth your afternoon, and you let it go for real. What you do not do is carry it silently and call that discipline. Silence with an open account behind it is the loudest signal on this ladder. That is 6. My silence runs cold. Name yours, a number 1 to 6. That is the whole comment, 1 digit. And it will take you 2 seconds because you already know which one it was. The distribution tells me what to write next, and I will tell you now that I expect 3 and 6 to run away with it. Before the turn, the warning, because this video has a dark version, and I have watched men walk into it. You can take all 6 of these and become genuinely unreadable, and then discover that unreadable and unreachable are the same word to everybody else. A man with no tells is a man nobody can gauge, and people do not relax around a man they cannot gauge. They become careful. Careful is not the same as respectful. Careful means less is brought to you. Less is said in front of you, and eventually less is offered to you. Because offering something to a man who gives no reading is a risk, and people avoid unnecessary risk. The point of this is not to become a blank surface. It is to stop leaking involuntarily, so that what you do show is chosen. There is an enormous difference between a man who gives nothing and a man who gives what he decides to give. The first is a wall, the second is a person, and people bring things to a person. So the test is simple. If people have stopped telling you things, you have overshot. Warmth is not a tell. Warmth is a choice, and choices are exactly what you have been trying to get back. Now the turn, and it is not where you have been looking. You have spent this entire video placing yourself on one side of the telegram. You have been the king, sending a clear message that somebody else distorted. Reasonable man, misread. That is not your position in this story. You are France. Somebody edits your Ems Dispatch most weeks. Not a villain. A colleague who knows the fastest way to get a decision out of you is to raise it in front of 2 other people. A manager who learned that framing something as a question about your commitment produces a yes within the hour. They cut the softening clauses out of what they say to you on purpose, because they learned years ago what the compressed version does to you. And you read the compressed version, and you feel something, and you act on the feeling, and you believe the whole time that you are simply responding to what happened. 6 days later, in your version, you have volunteered for the project, or lost the argument you should have won, or said the thing you spent the weekend regretting. And nobody handled you. You reacted to what was in front of you, exactly as anybody would have. That is what being legible actually costs. It is not that people think less of you. It is that your reactions are available to anybody who has learned the trick, and a reaction that can be produced on demand is not really yours. And there is a second half, and it is harder than the first. Some part of you has enjoyed the flair, because reacting feels like having a spine. In a working life spent absorbing things, swallowing things, being reasonable about things. The moment your voice changed in that meeting was the one moment you did not feel like a man being walked past. It felt like standing up. It is the story you tell yourself afterwards on the drive home. And in the story, you were the one person in the room who said something. But look at when it happens. It never happens on your schedule. It happens on theirs. In the moment they chose. On the ground they picked. In front of the audience they assembled. The flair is not you finally asserting yourself. It is the one behavior of yours that other people can start whenever they want, which makes it the least free thing you do all week. You have been mistaking being provoked for being strong. They are opposites. The first is being operated. The second is choosing the moment, which is the entire subject of this arc, and which you cannot do while a stranger holds the switch. So here is what actually changes, and it is smaller than you would like. You do not become impassive. You do not train your face. You pick one signal, the one you named in the comments, and for 2 weeks you do nothing except notice it after the fact. Not during after. You will not catch it in the moment for a while, and trying to will only make you stiff. You are building a delay between the signal and the reaction. And the way it is built is by recognizing the signal repeatedly in the rear-view mirror until the recognition drifts forward on its own. It does drift. Somewhere in the 3rd or 4th week you will catch it while it is happening, which is a strange experience because you will feel the reply forming and simply watch it form without sending it. That is the 4 seconds, not composure, not discipline, a gap between the signal and the answer, which you own and which nobody else can open on your behalf. And once you have it, The room changes shape around you, and you will not be able to point to the day it happened. 6 lines, they are yours now. I know my tell, I let them finish, I answer short. I do not reach for the file. I talk to the one person. My silence runs cold. One of those cost you more than the other 5. Put that one below, and the number of your signal beside it. And I read every one of them. Subscribe if you want the rest of this. There are 3 more in this arc, and they are built in order. And you are one of the pack now, whether you asked for it or not. Next Thursday, you will answer somebody, and the answer will be good. And then you will answer again, and the second one is where everything goes. The first answer is information. The second answer is a confession, and it is the one they were waiting for. Why powerful men never explain twice. That is episode 3 of the quiet version. Say it once more and mean it. I know my tell. Somewhere at that table, a man is shortening the telegram.